and welcome. This is Amanda, the Nerdy Crafter, and I'm here with another project for my Baking Spirits Bright Crafter treat. This one is another how to use up your scraps, or just those things that you have laying around your house that you didn't know what to do with them. Specifically for this one is a manila file folder. I had a box of black file folders I'd gotten years ago for a project, and they were just sitting around, and I'm like, what can we make with these? So what we're going to be making today is a recipe album. I have a sample of it here in front of us, and this is utilizing some printables that I got from Victoria Designs on Etsy. I will post her information. She does these beautiful images. They are layered. They're just like a junk journal, and it makes junk journaling really easy. So I put together some of her stuff and then some of this tea-dyed, coffee-stained paper to go with it, just to add a really nice recipe album junk journal that you can put together and store your favorite recipes. You can use it for pictures. You can use it just as a regular journal to write things in. Whatever you'd like, this is ready for you to use. We've also added a waterfall element to the front here, so you can add some additional recipes up at the front. But just a quick, simple album for you to put together. All right, if you're interested in the instructions, just message me and or put a comment in the description box below, and I'll get in touch with you and get you a copy of the cutting instructions. But let's go ahead and get started. So, for my class kit, this is again for a crafter treat that I host. It's going to come with all the supplies that are needed, including the printables already printed. For those of you at home, you'll need to decide what you'd like to use and which supplies you have, and or with if you have printables and or what you like. But the start of our album is a manila folder. Like I said, I have these black ones here. And the first cut that we're going to make is at 9 inches. So along the folded edge, I'm going to cut at 9 inches because we want it to be 9 inches tall. Pull this back a little so you can see. So I'm going to come right at that 9-inch mark and make that first cut. Now the second cut is a little bit different, so I want to walk you through it. So the first one is I'm going to cut the back part. So right here where my seam is, I'm going to cut that at 6 for just the bottom half. So I'm cutting only the bottom piece of this. I've got the rest of it open. So it's going to be 6 by 9. And now I'm going to burnish this binding. So on mine, I have a 3/4 inch binding here. So the same thing, now that I've burnished that binding, this top flap now, on that score mark, that second score mark, so without my binding there, is also going to be marked at 6 inches. And I'm taking off the outside of my folder with all the tabs on it. So now this is the base to the album. That we've just made the base and the start of our album. So it makes it quick, fast, and simple. So the first thing we want to do is we want to glue down our spine. For my purposes, I found this really cool contact paper. It's a wood grain. I thought it worked really well with the printed paper. So that is what I'm going to be using for my spine. So again, 3/4 inch by 9. Place that right down on the spine there. Second piece. Placing that just in between those score marks there, and burnish that down. Now, if there is a little bit of an overhang on here, we just take our handy dandy little scissors and just trim off anything that's hanging over. So now let's go ahead, and I'm just going to make sure that that opens and closes really well. If you need to bring in your bone folder, you can bring your bone folder in. Just really make sure you burnish those edges. Make sure everything's opening and closing. Oh, and it looks like I have a little bit of overhang here, so I cut that just a little too big. So this is the time I want to figure that out, so I can trim that extra off. I'm just coming right along that edge there. I'm just trimming off any of that extra that's folding up. You might want to cut it just a hair. Looks like it's just a sliver under the 3/4 inch. And that will fit a little bit better in there. Perfect. Okay, so now I'm going to take what I've chosen to be my cover, and I'm going to cut that down to 5.5. So I want it to be my cover front and back of my album. So it's going to be 5.5 by 8.5. That will be the front and the back. And then for my cover, I have chosen this cupcake design. Now it lines up exactly at 5.5, so I need to trim it down so that I have a little bit of a border around it. So I'm just going to come in and I'm going to take a 1/4 inch off. Let's start with 2 sides and kind of see how that looks. I may go ahead and do all 4 sides, but let's just start with 2 sides. And it looks like I do really like that. So I think the 1/4 inch, nope. I think I'm going to go ahead and do it on all 4 sides. I want a little bit more of a border on this one. And that will take off anything that in the printing process left a little bit of edge on there. So that will help clean up any of those edges. Perfect. Yes, I like that a little bit better. Okay, and then we're going to just grab our glue. And I'm using the Barely Art glue today. This glue dries matte and flat, so I like to use this a lot with my gluing. It gives me a little bit of wiggle room. If I need to adjust at all, I can take just a second and adjust. The color cardstock I'm using is the My Colors. It's Oceanside is what we've chosen to use today. And I just found whatever colored paper worked well with the printable or what you've chosen for your cover sheet. I'm going to lay this flat. That'll give me a little bit easier time when I'm trying to line this up. Perfect. I'm just going to burnish that down, let that glue bind. And now for my back cover. One side of this paper is flat, the other side is textured, so I'm going to go ahead and glue down the flat side and leave the textured side up. Perfect. Now my cover is completed. The only thing I need to do is work on the how the binding is going to work for our journal. So we will do that in just a minute. We have one more cut to make before I put the trimmer away though. So I'm going to take a 12 by 12 sheet of black cardstock and I'm going to cut this down to, I need 6 by 5 3/4, but I want it to be just a sliver under 6. So I'm just going to go just a hair under 6. So it will fit into the album. Since the album is right at 6, I want to give it just a little bit of wiggle room. So again, just a sliver under 6 and then 5 3/4, and we are looking to cut 4 of those. So here's 1 and 2. And I'll take the next piece, and again, just a sliver under 6. Because we did do just a sliver under 6, I will need to trim this because there's going to be a little bit left over. And then 5 3/4. And the last one at 5 3/4. I'm just going to set those aside. We'll come back and do the waterfall in just a little bit, but I'm going to put those aside for the moment. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I'm going to work on my spine now. It looks like I need to just burnish that down just a little bit more. The one thing I like about the Barely Arts tip is that if I need to get in anywhere I can get in, I need a little bit of extra glue right there. It's got just a fine tip so it allows me to sneak in wherever I need to get that glue in there. All right, so for the binding, what I've done is an elastic binding on this, and I've added some little, oh my goodness, what are these called? The little brads, thank you, to hold that in place and to help secure it. Also, the extra paper that I put on there will give it a little bit more structure, but I didn't want them to be torn out. So this is just a basic journal, how you add journals into like a traveler's notebook. So we're going to be utilizing that method. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my Crocodile, and I'm going to use the 1/8 inch circle punch here. And what I want is I'm going to add a circle, and I want to line this first little notch up. So there's a little notch right here, and I want to line that up with my paper. And I want my hole to line up. So this side is going to line up with my fold, and that's going to line up with the bottom of my page. And once I get there, because you just want to go just a hair in. If you go too far in, then you won't be able to your pages won't fit. So just one. Nope, that one was a little bit too low, so I'm going to go up just a hair more on the second one, and it will fix that. Okay, 2. Okay. So it's going to be a 1 and a 2. And so I did have oopses up here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some additional of my paper here and fill that in so that way I can punch those one more time. So let me go grab some of that. Okay, so I went and grabbed an extra little piece of my my binding here, and I'm just going to overlay it. So I'm going to overlay it there, wrap it around so we can fix those little holes. Okay, so what I've determined is I took my 1/8 inch and I moved it all the way forward. So this is my little guide here, and I moved it as far forward as it will go, and that's going to be right where I trim at. So if I line that up, then I get perfect there. Okay, and then I'm going to grab my brads, and I've got some purple ones in here and some blue ones. So I don't know, I think I'm going to use the purple ones this time. I know my paper's blue, but I just really like purple. So sometimes you just got to go with the purple, you know? All right, grabbing 4 of those. I'm going to place 1 in each hole. Let's start with 1 at a time. And then I'm going to use the eyelet setter portion of this. So I'm going to come in and squeeze that closed. And there are tons of videos out here. I think May did one of my favorites where she showed all the different features of the Crocodile. If I can find it, I will link it for you. So if you have questions on how to use your Crocodile and how to use all the different settings on it, she did an amazing job going through that. So I will let her be the expert there. I learned a tremendous amount from it. So always sharing is caring. And we're just going to set this one here. And one last one. Again, this just helps reinforce those holes so that way you don't pull out. We're going to be using an elastic cord for our binding, and it's a traveler's notebook style of binding. So you can see on the inside it's splayed out those brads, so it's ready to go. Okay. The next thing is we're going to take our elastic cord. So this is about 24 inches long. I did go a little bit longer than needed, but I'd rather have more and then trim it off than not enough. Okay, so what we're going to start with is we're going to feed the elastic cord starting on the inside. So we want to leave a little bit of a tail so it comes into the middle here. Okay, so I'm going to start here and I'm going to go into one of my holes at the top. I'm going to pull that till it's about center for my cord. Then I'm going to weave that cord back in from the front. So you'll see that it will form a little hoop there on the front. And if you'd like to add a charm or something to that, you can add a charm onto there. Then I'm going to come down to the bottom on this same side. So I'm using the brad on the left and the bottom, the brad on the left. And I'm going to feed that back in from the outside. So again, I'm going to have a little hoop on the outside. And then bring those two cords into the middle. And I'm going to tie a knot. And I want them to be snug, but I don't want them to be so tight that it's going to be pulling on my paper. Okay? Once those are tied, I generally like to come in with a little bit of my glue and just work a little bit of my glue into there to kind of help reinforce that tie. And then I do trim off the extra. Sometimes I'll also just take a little bit of my glue right there at the ends, just so that they don't fray. And just tapping a little bit of the glue on there just helps a little bit with fraying. Okay, so now I have my album built, and all we need to do is start assembling. So for that, let me see if I can find my scoring tool here. Give me 2 seconds. I put it away. I was being so good about putting all my stuff away in all of its places, and then I forgot that I actually needed it still. So what I'm going to be using is my ergonomic bone folder from Trinity Stamps. It is one of my favorite bone folders, and the reason why I use this one is because it does not leave a glossy accent on my dark paper. So when we're using the black paper in just a little bit, this will not add any shine to the paper. So we have a couple different options. You can pull out your scoreboard if you'd like and score these. I find that just a nice fold on them and using my scoring tool really helps. I'm simply going to go in and fold all of these in half. I'm going to fold some of these so you can see the process. I'm going to do one half and then I'll finish the other ones off camera. But I'm just coming it through, folding that in half. Now I've chosen double-sided paper, so I've double-sided the pages. I printed all this on my Epson photo printer, so I have a EcoTank ET8500. I absolutely love it. And I went with the 8550. The reason why I went with the 8550 is because I can print 12 by 12 paper. The 8500 is eligible to print 8.5 by 11, and you can get these borderless edges. It is a dream. So now I did print this on a cream cardstock, so that's why it looks a little more distressed, because I wanted that vintage distressed junk journal look to it. And then I found this coffee tea stained paper on Amazon. I will link that in my description box also if you're interested in purchasing that. So this is what I consider quick, fast, and easy junk journaling, and we're doing it in a recipe album style. So Victoria Designs, again, is the creator of the paper line that we're utilizing, or you're seeing here. And I love her paper. I think it's absolutely beautiful. She does all the guesswork. She does the layering. She does all of the vintage grunge look to it, so you can see like the torn edges of the paper. That's all built into her paper, so I don't have to spend hours and hours and hours creating these layers. She's done such a beautiful job, and she has so many different themes and styles out there to choose from. So I'm sure you can find a style that suits your needs and what you're looking for. All right, we're getting to the middle here. And what I did here, in order to still keep the every other page, one page has a printable on it, one page has the tea stained, is I took one of my printables, oops, that's upside down. So here is this, there, and there. So there's actually one extra piece in there. So once I have that all put together, I simply bring back in my cover, I open it to the center, and I loop it into one of those elastic bands. So either the front or the back. And now I have half of my album completed. I can then take the second half of printables that I have and make the second journal. So these are considered journals. So I'm just going to set this one aside for a minute so we can make the waterfall. So set that aside. I'm going to bring in those black pages that we cut earlier, and those again were 5 3/4 by 6. So here is the 5 3/4. Here is the 6. And it's just a sliver under 6. So for these, what we're going to do is we are going to go on the 5 3/4 side. So 5 3/4. And I'm going to do a 1-inch score mark. So for this recipe album, I was trying to do them in card-based size for our recipe cards. We are doing a swap in our group, and so I recommended everybody make them an A2 card size, so 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And so this will fit perfectly, be able to hold those perfectly. Okay, so now that I've got that 1-inch scored, now I'm just going to fold those back. And I'm not going to use the plastic wand that's in there, or bone folder. I'm going to bring in that Teflon bone folder because, like I said, the Teflon will keep it from making your paper shiny. And it just has a really nice feel to it in my hands. Just burnish and score all of those. If you can see down here, I've got my Glassboard Studio glass mat with me today. Oh my goodness. I've been using this for a couple of months now. I absolutely love it. It makes working quick, fast, simple. It's actually upside down today. I didn't realize I had it upside down. There we go. It does reflect when I'm filming, but it is well worth it. It's something I think everybody should have in their collection. I'm going to pull out this signature here that we've done while I put my waterfall together. So there's a ton of different ways to do waterfalls. This is one that I found that it's just really quick, fast, and simple. For those of you that know me, I always try to find an easy way to do things. I don't have much time to craft nowadays with all my projects and everything going on. So I need to find ways that make this simple. So what I'm going to do is I'm gluing that 1-inch piece, and I'm going to place that down towards the top. It does not need to be at the very, very top here. And I want to make sure that I'm inside the score mark so that I'm not impeding the journal from opening or closing. I'm going to burnish that down. Make sure that glue binds to the paper. And then I'm going to lift that up. Now the next one, what I'm going to do is that 1-inch, I'm going to add glue to that 1-inch flap again. And then I'm going to line that up right below the first one. So I'm going to butt that up right there, and that will give me a 1-inch border. So if I want to put a little strip in there of pattern paper or decorative paper, I can. But this will make all of my layers uniform and even. So again, that 1-inch is folded back. I'm going to take that and line it up. And I'm going to line it up with the outside edge. This one I think is just a hair over 6. So I'm going to pull that one off. I should have dry fitted it first. Let me just double check this one to make sure. Okay, that one is under 6. Okay. So I'm going to trim that one in just a second. I'm going to let that glue dry, and then I need to trim it down because it was just a hair over 6, so it was not going to fit. which means this one is probably the second one to it is going to have the same. Yep, I need just a sliver off of these. So let me bring in my paper trimmer. Just a little sliver off of that one. Open this one up. And just a sliver off of that one. Okay, let's try to fit that one again. It's always a good idea to dry fit everything before you place it down. It looks like I need just a sliver more. There we go. Perfect. Now it's going to line up. So good rule of thumb, dry fit it in before you add your glue. Or at least with your glue, you do have a little wiggle room in order to pull that up if you need to. And again, I'm lining that right up against the bottom of the last one. So I have a 1-inch border in here. Let's dry fit this one, make sure this one fits, and this one does fit better. And add some glue. And place this one down. So now we have 4 additional spots here for our elements to be placed in, our recipe cards to be placed in. I can grab our signature, our first little journal signature that we made, and slide that into the first elastic band. So now I can add additional pages. This is quick, fast, and simple to add additional pages, to take pages out. One of the other products that I'm bringing in is, this is a stamp and die set from Lail by Mail, and it's this really cute little envelope stamp. So I'm just going to come through and I'm going to burnish all the score marks on this one. And this one actually fits an A2 card also. So this would be another tuck spot or an additional area where you can add in recipe cards. So once I have all those ends burnished, I'm going to come in, and you see there's a little bit of extra bulk right there where the seams meet. I'm just going to come in and miter the corners of this top one a little bit. That will help when we're bringing this down and we're gluing that together. That will just fit a lot nicer and make that, you know, not so bulky there in the corners. So now I can add that right to the front page here, so I can add in some additional journal cards. And let me just grab a couple examples of some journal cards. I have some recipe journal cards here. And that can slide right in to that spot there once I have that glued down. I might have scored that a little off, so I might need just a sliver change there. That's okay. Give that a minute. And then that recipe card does look like it needs to be trimmed down just a hair in order to fit in there, but that will fit in there and fit underneath my waterfall. So I can put recipe cards in there. I can add horizontal recipe cards here. So I can either glue them in, or in each of the kits I provided some photo corners for people. So I've provided some photo corners that they can use. So put one photo corner in each corner, and then it's easy to pop your recipe card out. Same thing with each of the pages here. I can add my recipe card to one side, and I can add a photo of what it actually would look like when I make it to the other side. I can use a flip card, so I can put a little hinge mechanism on the top of my card, so that way I can flip it up and down. So you can do that. You can use photo corners here. You can add in tuck elements. So I've added a little bag of some embellishments and different things here, so I can always glue this down on two sides to allow for a little tuck corner to tuck in your recipe cards. So I just wanted to give a lot of different options on how to add your recipes to the album here. From Pajama Crafter stamps and Trinity stamps, I've come in with some different baking themes, baking sheet here with the different tools, a spoon and a fork, so you can add some additional decorations. So just use your imagination and let it go wild. And this project is quick, fast, and simple. Again, just a quick recipe album that you can make. This is part of my how to use your scraps, and this is our recipe album one. So if you're interested in making this at home, I will have some links to the products that I use below, so you're welcome to purchase the paper that I used and join along and make this with us. I would love to see your creations. If you choose to make it, please tag me, let me know, and I look forward to seeing you later. Take care and have a great day. Bye.